Lesson 29. Confusing pairs of phrasal verbs. In this lesson, we're going to review the differences between some commonly confused phrasal verbs. For example, you learned in a past lesson that both find out and figure out mean to discover information, but you find out the information from another source, and you figure out something by using your own thought and logic. Write down versus write up. Both of these phrasal verbs mean to put information into written form. However, write down is usually used for short pieces of information, such as phone numbers and addresses, or taking notes while listening to a class or lecture. You write down small pieces of information so that you can remember or refer to them later. Write up is used for taking a larger amount of information and putting it into a formal report that will probably be published or distributed to other people. For example, after a conversation with a colleague about a possible project, you can say, "I'll write up a proposal and send it to the boss." This means you will take all the ideas that you discussed and organize them into an official document. Mix up versus mess up. Both of these phrasal verbs refer to an error. However, mix up is a very specific type of error, meaning to confuse or exchange two or more things. If you are cooking and the food doesn't taste right, it could be because you mixed up the salt and the sugar. Mess up refers to making a mistake in general. The mistake could be mixing up two things, or it could be something different. In the cooking example, you could mess up the recipe by adding too much pepper. Get around versus get along. Get around is used for mobility and transportation. For example, New York City has an extensive subway system, so it's easy to get around. You could also say that it was difficult to get around on crutches after you broke your leg. Get along is used for interpersonal relationships. Two people with a good relationship get along well. Two people who don't like each other don't get along. Not get along is often used as a diplomatic way to express the fact that you hate or have major problems with another person. Back off versus back out versus back down. All of these phrasal verbs are related to stopping an activity or not doing something, but there are some key differences in their meaning and use. If you back off, you stop attacking someone, physically or verbally. For example, a robber might back off if he sees a policeman coming. Back off can also be used for attacks in terms of pressuring a person. If a friend is insisting that you eat a bacon cheeseburger and you say no, but he keeps insisting, you could then tell him that you can't eat it for religious reasons, and he might back off, stop insisting. Back down means to withdraw from a position, opinion, or proposal. For example, if you are in a meeting and you are arguing in support of a particular position, but you see that everyone else is against you, you could back down, stop holding to that position, so that the meeting can proceed. Back down is used more for desisting from opinions, claims, and ideas which are not necessarily aggressive, whereas back off is used more for desisting from attacks. Finally, back out means you don't do something you had previously committed to doing. If you promised to help your friend move to a new apartment, but then you call her later and say you're not available, then you are backing out. You can also use this phrasal verb when a company backs out of a business deal or potential contract, agreement, or partnership. Grow up versus bring up. Both of these phrasal verbs are associated with children. However, a child grows up, becomes older, and the parents bring up, take care of, and educate the child. With grow up, the child is the subject, and with bring up, the child is the object. Fill in versus fill out versus fill up. All of these phrasal verbs are related to completing something. Both fill in and fill out are used for completing information on paper. We typically say fill in the blanks or the missing information, but fill out the form or application. Fill up is used for three-dimensional spaces. For example, you can fill up a bottle with water. You can also say a place filled up with people. For example, the nightclub really filled up after 11 p.m. Put off versus hold off. Both of these phrasal verbs mean to delay doing a task. The difference is that you hold off for some good reason, whereas you put a task off because you are lazy or procrastinating. The phrasal verb hold off is often followed by until and the reason. For example, if you need to make a major decision, but you want to talk to your husband before finalizing anything, you could say, "Let me hold off until I can talk to my husband about this." Tear up versus tear down. Both of these phrasal verbs are related to destruction, but you tear up a piece of paper, a letter, article, etc., and you tear down a three-dimensional structure like a building or a wall. Take out versus take off. Both of these phrasal verbs relate to removing an object, but you take something out of an enclosed space, and you take something off of a surface. You would take a plate off the table, but you would take a spoon out of the drawer. To use examples from clothing and accessories, you can take an object out of your pocket or bag, but you would take your shirt or shoes off. Remove the shirt or shoes from your body. Pass out versus pass away. If a person passes out, they lose consciousness temporarily. If a person passes away, they die. It's definitely important not to get these two phrasal verbs mixed up. You've finished Lesson 29 on confusing pairs of phrasal verbs. Take the practice quiz. There are no writing exercises today, and log in tomorrow for Lesson 30.